When I was in Japan, one of the things that sucked was not having time off for health problems. And that can happen to you if you work in a country that doesn't guarantee time off for health problems. This is actually a story from the first company for whom I worked, and it was a company I consider now, looking back, good compared to the second company, which was the Hell Company. I had atrial fibrillation. I still have atrial fibrillation, but I had a huge AFib event in March. I can tell you the exact date, March 31st, 2012. Excuse me. So March 30th, 2012. Actually, it's actually the 29th. March 29th, 2012, I ate a large portion of squid. And I didn't know this, but I was very allergic to that particular species of squid. I ended up in what is it called? I ended up in anaphylactic shock. And so I called an ambulance. They came pick me up. They injected me with epinephrine, which is not good for your heart. I didn't know that I had a predilection or a predisposition to AFib, but I did. At the time itself, because they pumped me also so full of, what do you call it? Like calming things, because I was panicking because of the anaphylactic shock, I didn't have a heart issue. But the next day, so March 30th, maybe 31st, I may be getting my days wrong because this is like a long time ago. This is 13 years ago. The next day during school, I had a very, very bad, long fibrillation incident. I told my boss at the time, and she said, "Oh, just sit down and have a glass of water." And I wasn't feeling better, so I asked her to please call my dentist. This sounds weird, but my dentist saved my life. He worked across the street, across the train tracks, I should say. She called him, or she went to get him. He came running because he knew I had complained of palpitations before, but he didn't know. I mean, this had lasted now for an hour. He came running. At the top of his lungs, he yelled at my boss at the time, "Call an ambulance. What the fuck is wrong with you?" Basically, there's like kids in one room, adults in another. Everyone's looking at me, but I couldn't care less. I was on the sofa with my eyes closed because my heart had been fibrillating for like now an hour. The ambulance came really quickly. I have to say, hats off to ambulances in Japan. They are really very, very efficient. And even though I was on the third floor of a building with only stairs, they managed to carry me down in some kind of hammock. I ended up having to get heart surgery. I have a lot of issues with that heart surgery that have nothing to do with the hospital or the doctors. They were wonderful. The issues are with my parents, who used the surgery as an excuse to take a vacation in Japan with me as their tour guide, even though I had just had heart surgery. And really, basically, I would have probably been better off without my parents visiting me. That's one issue. The other issue was that I got no paid time off. No paid time off for heart surgery. So I took 2 weeks off of work that were unpaid. And for some unknown reason, the contract in order to get a visa to work in Japan, you have to have a full-time work contract, obviously. But when I looked carefully at my contract, it was only a fake contract for immigration. And they informed me, "No, well, this is the contract we gave to immigration so you could get your work visa, but you actually have this contract that I had never seen before. And this is the one that says we're not paying you." So, okay, 2 weeks off, unpaid. I go back to work after 2 weeks. Mind you, I had heart surgery. Now, it's not open heart surgery. They used catheters that went through my neck and my groin, but it's still heart surgery. Back to work in 2 weeks. Obviously, it wasn't working. I have to teach 8 classes a day, 6 at minimum, 8 at max, with mostly kids. I had so many issues that I ended up having to quit work. So this will take me to another place. But basically, when you don't have time off, you don't heal. So 3 months later, I had to quit my job. I did so. I was unemployed for 6 months, but in Japan, you cannot be unemployed if you're a foreigner. Obviously, you need to have a work visa, right? You can't just stay in many countries, and I'm not necessarily blaming Japan for this, but I had nowhere to go. So I ended up working for a friend. Long story short, he ended up stealing money from me. this is a different story. I'm not going to get there. But what I want to talk about today was just the no paid time off. If you have a contract to work in any foreign country, including but not limited to Japan, make sure that the contract that is shown to immigration is your actual contract, which in many cases it's not. In all cases in Japan, all of my jobs over a period of 12 years, the contracts shown to immigration were fake contracts that had no stipulation on our actual work environment. So that is what I'm warning you about in this video. If you move to Japan, Korea, Switzerland, United States, anywhere, make sure the contract you sign is a real contract and not a fake contract just for immigration that doesn't entitle you to the working rights of a person from that country. Because had I been Japanese, I would have been entitled to medical leave paid for by my job's insurance policy. But it turns out, even at this good company, I'm not going to name names because they still are better than the other company I worked for later. At least I had a contract, right? Even at this company, I was basically left out to, I don't know. I guess their idea was I would just go back to the United States, which I couldn't. One of my coworkers actually got leukemia and she ended up dying. So, why she died is not entirely the fault of the company, but one of the things was she couldn't take time off to go to her, doctor's appointments. And when she finally ended up at a doctor's appointment, they said, like, you have stage 4 leukemia. Like, all we can do now is give you the chemo, but we can't guarantee you'll survive. And she did not survive. She ended up dying of a stroke from the chemotherapy. Yeah. I definitely blame her death on the company because the boss, Mr. Koto, was always on her ass because she was taking time off to go see doctors. Well, in the end, when they finally found out what was wrong with her, it was leukemia. And she was 22 years old, so she died very quickly. Yay!